Huh. People online are really talking up this game. It might actually be kind of good. Let's check out the store page. Termina is oppressive, blah 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 blah, words. Mature content description. This game contains scenes of explicit violence and gore. Dismemberment is one of the core mechanics in the game. This game also includes the following: use of alcohol and drugs, scene of self-destructiveness, from silly things to self-harm, nudity, and sexual content. Themes of depression, mental health, sexual violence, child abuse, war, and atrocities that come with it represent in the game. Sounds like a pretty normal experience, not that extreme. Why look up anything about it? Might as well just play it. You know, just get a first-hand experience. Hello there, my gooners and goonettes. Welcome back to another video, and as you saw from my amazingly animated intro, today we are playing Fear and Hunger Termina. And I'm going in here with a bit of a challenge. So I have tried to keep myself mostly unaware up to this point about the Fear and Hunger franchise, because I was like, hey, this sounds like it could actually make a really interesting video for you guys, you know, just from the little glimpses that I got. And from what I see a lot of recommendations online, you actually want to start with Fear and Hunger 2 Termina because it's just more beginner friendly than Fear and Hunger 1. But I don't really know a lot about either, and I'm just going to start with the one that's easier apparently. So I guess the challenge that I'm going to be going here with is I'm not going to be using the wiki, and what happens will happen. Hopefully I don't end up wanting to shoot myself. Oh god, I want to shoot myself so bad. Huh, that was weird. Anyways, starting up Termina, we get a really important choice. Who will be our main character? Termina is just kind of chill like that, where you get a total of 8 characters to pick from, all of which have their own class and playstyle. Which, if you ask me, is very insane for an RPG. But getting this right from the start with no prerequisites to be able to like unlock these classes is insane. Okay, so enough glazing the game. Let's actually get into these characters so we actually find out which one we're going to pick. Alright, our first character is going to be Levi, who's an ex-Bremen soldier. And for context, Bremen basically means, you know, those, you know that time in history, you know, where like the funny mustache man like killed a bunch of people, mass genocide, and his little windmill soldiers? He's basically part of their army. But he was also 18, was kind of forced and conscripted, so he did not want to be in there at all. And she's one of my favorites. She's just really cool. Our next character is Dan, who's a freaky little doctor guy who has a connection to the Sulfur cult and may or may not become a horrifying cat monstrosity who is a servant of the moon god Rare. Then we have Abella, who was unable to participate in the war to help fight against the Bremen soldiers, so she became an engineer on the home front. And she is absolutely awesome, and she is my favorite. She is my absolute favorite. I'm not even gonna hide it, alright? I'm gonna talk about the rest of the characters, but just know that Abella is my favorite, and I picked her mostly before I even knew anything, just because of the fact that I like engineering, she's an engineer, it worked. Then we have Osa, who comes from Abyssonia, which is the equivalent of Northern Africa, and he goes to the Eastern Sanctuary, which is basically Asia, to be able to learn magic as a yellow mage, who is basically a mage who uses magic without worshipping any of the gods. So after Osa, we have Olivia, and Olivia is a twin actually, whose sister is very important and will be touched on later. But what we have to know for now is that she's a botanist who was from birth disabled, so she's in a wheelchair the entire time. Next, we have Marco, who, I mean, look, just look at him. He's a JoJo's character. All right, that's all I have to say. I'm not even going to go into his backstory because he's a JoJo's character. So next up, we have Karen, who is a journalist, and she's covered wars, you know. You know what? Screw it. Yeah, that's all she ever says. I'm not even going through her backstory either. So as I not so subtly hinted at earlier, we'll be playing as Abella. So Abella's class is that she's a mechanic, and she's able to go down 2 routes. She's able to place down traps, which is actually the most useless thing of all time, or she can be able to go down the route of becoming God herself. So as Abella, you get 2 skills right from the start that completely break the game. So one of the skills will be useful a little more later, which is weapon crafting, and weapon crafting is God's blessing upon this earth, alright? Like, I'm just gonna say this right now, it breaks the game. But for right now, we are stuck with just French Toss, which is already a really good skill because on some enemies, it allows you to infinitely stun lock them and they can't do any damage to you. Which is incredibly important when some attacks in this game will instantly kill you or leave you debilitated for the rest of the game. I'm looking at you, Woodsman. Now that I'm actually done talking about Abella herself, let's actually get into the game. The game starts with you waking up on a train, and you go through your character's history. So as we start on this train, I obviously pick out my first skills, which would be weapon crafting and wrench toss, which I did not know they were the better skills at the time. I mean, short circuit isn't bad, it just allows you to open up doors. But I would choose wrench tossing and weapon crafting any day just because they're two really powerful skills. Since Bella has the same attention span as me without an eye patch, she instantly goes to sleep after 5 seconds, but then she wakes to find that everyone else on the train has already gone missing. This is because she wakes up to be inside this dreamscape. And then she makes her way down the train into a wooden dimension where she's encountered by this weird little guy called the janitor, who is forcing her to make boxes. Except I don't do that because I killed the guy. Busted it first try. God, I'm actually proud of that. Alright, I'm going to interject here just for a little bit to kind of explain how Fear and Hunger combat works. Every enemy is split up into their body parts as each individual enemy. So basically, you have to specifically attack the arm, the torso, the head, the legs, etc. And for each enemy, they're able to attack with certain parts. So by choosing to destroy certain parts, you're going to be able to take less damage during the fight. But every enemy has critical parts you have to get rid of to be able to end the fight. For most enemies, it's going to be their torso and their head, but some enemies have unique spots you have to destroy in order to actually defeat them. And this is a part of what makes Fear and Hunger really cool, because it makes combat that much more interesting, as you have to think about how your enemy is going to attack you so you know how to use your skills. Like, for example, Abella's wrench toss, if you use it against a body part that the opponent is going to use to attack, they can no longer attack with that body part, which means that you basically debilitated them for an entire round. And that's also what makes Abella very powerful. Making our way down a small corridor, we find ourselves in the Hall of Gods, which is this place that's absolutely filled with new gods. And the new gods are basically people who wanted to become gods by ascending using the Golden Throne and Mahabra in the first game, but found that they wouldn't actually become gods. They'd become more powerful, but they would still be limited within their own humanity. After absolutely losing our marbles in the Hall of the New Gods, we find ourselves on top of a tower, introduced by this guy called Percola to this moon god called Rare. Rare, the trickster moon god, holds a festival called the Festival of Termina, which is basically a Fortnite battle royale, where 14 contestants have to fight each other for the chance to actually get out and survive, where everyone is forced to kill each other and offer them up to the moon god. With this premise setting up the entire game, we finally wake up inside the train and go outside to meet everybody else who had already woken up, and we start discussing the dream that we had. As soon as we get outside, we see everyone outside talking about what had happened on the train, and we decide to try and help out the situation by going on top of the train to see if we figure out what's wrong with the train. But rather than getting our butts stared at by Henrik, we find there's nothing mechanically wrong with the train. Befuddled by this, we have nothing else to really add to the conversation, but we are able to hear how Dan and Karen are arguing over what had actually caused what happened on the train. Dan has more of a view that it was probably something occult relating to the Festival of Termina which had caused it, while Karen argues that it was probably something done by the magic-fueled, God-fearing Nazis. Since I find history the world's most boring subject, I immediately nope out of this conversation and start running right towards Prehevil. Of course, the only way through Prehevil is through a musty, dusty road, and as we're crossing along the road, we come across this guy called the Woodsman. Who is this guy who's letting his dong fly free in the air, and God bless him for using his amendments right. Despite this man being the truest patriot I've ever met, I do have to bash his brains in though, because he did just kind of kill a guy right in front of me, and he's not that chill, because he's also trying to use his peen to infect me. After murdering the guy and robbing his house, we find out in his journal that his wife had been doing stuff with the goat, and that's the reason why he went insane. Well, even more so than everyone else, apparently. And I mean, looking at his face, and looking at that goat, yeah, I'm sorry, man, the goat won. And now, of course, after going through the world's second ever eldritch romantical drama, Sucker for Love, I Love You, we now make our way down to Old Town of Prehevil, where we find that everyone in the town had been transformed by the moon god Rare into these disgusting, vomitable moon scorch forms. And of course, we murder everyone without discrimination. Some bien dev, the channel where murder transcends discrimination. That's my new marketing pitch now. If I ever get sponsors somehow, I'm gonna go up to them. That's gonna be my pitch. Like, generally so far in the run, I'm feeling like pretty good about myself because I'm going through this entire run and I've killed almost every enemy I've come across, including the Vile, who is basically a mini boss. So I'm feeling pretty good. And then, well, play the kill it. Oh my god, I gotta be careful. Like, if I step on one of these, is the entire run gone? He's gonna try and kill me. I have to remember. I was literally thinking. I was already talking about earlier. I shouldn't step on one of those stupid traps. I'm gonna step on one of the traps. I stepped on one of the traps. So, being the stupid idiot that I am, I of course stepped on one of the bear traps, which get rid of your legs. And if you don't know, within Fear and Hunger Termina, running's kind of important because getting into every fight you can is really stupid. And if you don't have legs, it's kind of hard to run away. So for most people would restart the run at this point, especially when you're this early. But me, I'm a stubborn mule, so I keep going. Deciding that I still have to carry on, I make my way down to the mayor's manor, where I find Henrik, who is able to appreciate my thick gauntlet despite the fact that he's geeking out. So at this point in the run, I'm going to explain to you what we're actually trying to do in-game. So basically, Prehevil is split up into 3 areas. Old Town Prehevil, Main City Prehevil, and the Temple District. Our goal currently is to get to the Temple District, which is the end zone of the game. But right now we're currently in Old Town Prehevil. Now in the future I learned there's a lot of ways to get out of Old Town Prehevil, but as of right now I actually have no idea what I'm doing, so getting out of Prehevil will be very, very hard for me. Now, despite how wonderfully this absolutely terrible run was going, eventually it had to come to its end, because I had no legs. And also because I fought this guy called the Pipe Wrench Villager, who, if you didn't know, has almost 1000 HP in his torso. I can do only 300, which means that I'm actually forced to fight him, and it doesn't go well. Sit down. Okay, so that's the end of the run. Yeah, that's my first run over. Oh, I can tell it's gonna be so much fun. Oh, hey, I get to be fed to the pigs too. This is just dandy. I'm loving this. But that's just the first death of this game so far, which is fine. You know, I expected not to get through the game the first try. It to be hard, but it's not going to be that hard, right? Fuck! I apologize to everyone for my rude and vulgar language. Anyway, let's get back to the run. Starting up a new run, I go towards the east side of Prehevil, but this time we find Karen there. I ask her to join my party, but she says no because she's too cool for us. Also, I'm skipping over a lot of run 2 because we immediately die once again to missing 3 runs against... Alright, so... I've looked at my menus. Why does this sword need heroin? I love the spray, it's a sword. Why do you need heroin? You need heroin to be made. Bella, what are you cooking? So finally on my 4th run, I'm able to get back to the mayor's manor with actually having my legs intact this time, and I'm able to fight my first proper boss, which is going to be Father Hugo. Father Hugo is an absolute tank of a man, and I'm still fresh at this game, so this is just how it went. I'm kind of low on HP, and I don't have a lot of healing left, but I think I have to go through with the freak off. It just seems like something I have to do. Alright, I think it's my first boss fight, like, actually. I'm actually kind of scared. Okay, I don't want to use that yet. I'm gonna go to the guard for the first time to see what this guy got. He gives you a cheeky little grin. Alright. I probably shouldn't just go for torso shots right away. I probably should take him on his arms. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Oh! What? Stop! Okay, well that's nice. Aw, they're doing a little ring around the rosy. I can't realize that something feels broken. Yeah, something does seem broken down there. So yeah, on my 8th run, I made it to a boss and immediately got curb stomped. And I mean, technically you can continue after this point, but I just immediately restarted the run because you're just absolutely screwed, and I didn't like the idea of it being nighttime the entire time I'm recording. Now my 9th run, I realized that if you go west of the wooden cabin, you're able to find this new area which leads down to this bunker called Bunker 7. And inside this place we found an absolutely lovely specimen. And he's so friendly, look, he's a friendly party clown. Of course, being the absolute invertebrate that I am, I can't help myself but try to kill the clown that just killed a guy right in front of me. And again, it doesn't go well for me. I feel like I made a big mistake here, but I guess I'll take out the arm. If I can. Okay, I don't like this. Alright, something's telling me that even though that arm did a lot... I'm gonna die if I don't do that. I'm gonna die if I don't. Alright, he's just way too strong. I'm gonna die though if I don't take out that arm at least. Oh no, he's just way too strong. I had no chance. And right I am at that point, because Needle is an extremely tough enemy that you're supposed to fight with a full party. It's just me. I had no chance. I was actually an idiot for fighting him. Luckily though, dying to him doesn't actually mean that you lose your entire run. You just get injected and you wake up, and when you wake up, you, Yeah, I can't show that. Oh god. After getting through that really uncomfortable part of the game, we wake up in Bunker 5 and you start exploring around. But something that I really want to get into here is that at this point of the game, I actually have no idea what I'm doing and how to get up Old Town Prehevil. As I explained earlier, there's lots of ways to get out, but without the wiki, it's actually unlikely for you to find any of those. Especially when I didn't want to go to sleep, because I was like, day-night cycle scares me, I don't want to go to sleep. That's a really bad idea, because a lot of the game only progresses after you go to sleep, especially by making it to the second day. And by staying on the first day, I was pretty much shooting myself in the foot because I didn't know what I was doing. I will say though, despite how lost I might have been, I did figure out that if you use a bear trap and then a booby trap on the priest, he is extremely, extremely easy to kill. So I mean, like, are we really that bad? Yes. Yes, we are.
Screw this guy. Screw him so much. Absolutely messed me up before, and now he's dead. It was so easy. I cheesed him. I don't care.
So after completely demolishing that old fart decrepit piece of crap of a priest, God, I'm still so happy I killed him. I use this ritual circle, which is something I have to stop to explain real quick, because it is very, very important, because this is one of the key features that allow you to become extremely powerful within Fear and Hunger Termina. Alright, so within Fear and Hunger, there are 3 types of ritual circles, 2 which we're going to be focusing on for now, which is going to be the asymmetric circle and the perfection circle. Each of these circles correlate to 4 and 2 of the gods respectively, the asymmetric circle being Grogoroth, Venushka, Sylvian, and Rare. The perfection circle relates to the god of Fear and Hunger and Alll-Mer. Okay, so at a basic level, writing a god's sigil within the respective ritual circle will grant you more affinity with that god, which will be more important later when it comes to unlocking skills and spells, but for right now we don't really get much use out of that. What's really important is the secondary effect that comes with most of the ritual circles. Now what's most important is going to be Venushka, and what's going to be the god of Fear and Hunger. The god of Fear and Hunger is important because it allows you to save the game. Oh yeah, did I not mention that? You can't save the game unless you either sleep or use the God of Fear Hunger ritual circle or use a Book of Enlightenment. Unless you fulfill one of those requirements, you can't save throughout the entire game. But what's important here is going to be Venushka, which is what spawned that pale tree. This is important because, as I said earlier, remember how I said that Venushka can allow you to get into main city Prehevil? With this newfound knowledge of what the ritual of Venushka does, I make my way west of the woodsman's cabins into the ruined house where they have an asymmetrical circle, and there I'm able to use the ritual of Venushka to spawn one of the pale trees so that way I can access the deeper woods. Which is really important because this gives you access to the west side of Prehevil, and we're able to actually continue the game. God bless. Now, in the deep woods are these stupid people who annoy you by poisoning you the entire time, but honestly, I couldn't care because with wrench toss, they're pretty easy to take out, and I'm feeling great because I'm able to go through these woods and I'm able to start making my way through the game, and I'm actually making great progress, and I'm feeling. Anyways, forgetting what we just saw, I'm actually making my way back to the Woodman's cabin because there's a not so subtle hint there that you should probably put the symbol of rare in the basement of the house. And doing so unlocks us the goat. Yeah, remember that goat that stole the Woodsman's wife? We can have him as a party member. And I'll happily take anything at this point, I'm gonna be honest. Welcome aboard, Black Halo. Okay, so enough of that corny crap. Now that I have to go, I'm able to go deeper into the woods, and I'm able to find Olivia in the Northwest section, which is kind of weird, because, well, you know, she's not supposed to be running. Anyways, me and Caleb both quickly curb stomp her, and we're able to make our way into actual Prehevil, like actual Prehevil, and there we find Pocket Cat, the local child predator. But this time, he doesn't want children, he wants your head. And no, not the one in your pants, but I don't think he'd actually mind that either. After having a nice conversation in podcast about the concept of human societal structure, we're able to go deeper into Prehevil. And after fighting some, we have a moment where Black Caleb! No! The reason why I'm freaking out so much is because in Fear and Hunger, if you lose a teammate, unlike in every other RPG, you can't revive your teammate. So I'm pretty much screwed out of a teammate for the rest of this run. So I'm sorry, Black Caleb, but now that you're a pile of goat mush, I gotta turn back to the gods. Moving on from being a sloppy lover, I make my way through Prehevil and eventually end up within the sewers. Going through the sewers, I find myself. Oh, look at this young chap. Oh, guys, look, it's Levi. I mean, he doesn't have a face, but look, it's Levi! He might be an unwilling child soldier, but that's just an excuse. So I beat the living daylights out of his skull. After getting it through a bit more of the sewers, we ascend into the business district, one of the 3 main areas within later Prehevil, also known as the mid-game. and I am actually so excited. And you thought I was gonna do one of those gags where like I cut myself off before something terrible happens. No, actually, this is actually really good for us. And what's even better is that this place is one of my favorite locations within the entire game. I like genuinely, I'm not even gonna crack any jokes or anything. I'm just gonna step in here and you guys can just enjoy the audio. One of the things that isn't really appreciated that much about Fear and Hunger is just the music. It's amazing, and Prehevil Bop shows it perfectly. It's that uneasy startup into that nice, slow, and steady melody. Like you had just come out of the horrors and into a small, safe haven, that you have gotten away from the darkness, even if just for a moment. The melody is not completely happy though and calming, with little bits of unease littered throughout, knowing that you're going to have to leave eventually, but it helps the player know that just for this moment you're okay, that you're away from the horrors of the outside world. Ew, was that me trying to be artistic? Yeah, nah, I don't like that crap. Anyways, let's get back to the gameplay. Going east of Prehevil Bob, we end up at Dr. Keeper's Magic and Tricks, which is one of my favorite places in the entire game because it has the best gag.
What is your name, lass?
Abella.
Flack you, Abella!
I'm not gonna lie, Dr. Keeper is literally Pookie Bear, just like me, for real. Okay, so I'm gonna be a bit honest here. I kind of lost the footage for like the next half hour, so I'm just gonna like crudely explain to you and like put little images on screen about what roughly happened. So where we were is on the west side of Prehevil, but I slowly made my way towards the center of Prehevil. On the way there, I went into this library, where in the second floor basement, I'm able to put down one of those shrines to the god of Fear and Hunger, which means I'm actually able to get my save for the first time within the city, which is great, because now I don't have to spend so much time retracking. And even then, I go even further east, because we're trying to make our way towards the center staircase that leads to Old Town Prehevil. But what's really important is that right in front of the staircase leads into Restaurant Billyville, which in the basement of has a little surprise for us. And let me just tell you this, actually seeing another contestant in this game that wasn't actually a horde monster actually broke me. Because I had been struggling throughout this game so hard, and I finally actually got my first ally that wasn't an animal that died instantly. And genuinely, I was ecstatic. Now look, Levi might have a crippling heroin addiction, which means that he's taking 30% more damage and does 30% less damage, but look at him, he's spooky. So at this point in the game, I actually decided to go to sleep in the mayor's manor, and I'm kind of want to kill myself that I didn't sleep earlier, because turns out the way I was playing the game the entire time was literally the hardest possible way to play the game. So earlier I said that sleeping is also a way to save, but beyond that, it's also a way to access character upgrades, because when you start in the game, you are painfully weak, and you have access to almost no spells unless you're playing a magic character. But you can upgrade your character by sleeping, and I did not do that. Also, something else I didn't know is that every recruitable party member is only available on day 2 except for Abella and Levi. I'm Abella, so I couldn't recruit myself, so I could only get Levi. I decided to immediately sleep through to the second day because looking around an evening and night, 1, doesn't look as good on recording, but also 2, nothing much really changes because I already explored everything on the first day. Leaving the mayor's manor run to this, who's one of the strongest enemies in the entire game. He's able to do multiple attacks a turn that each take off a limb, and I am not doing with that. So instead of fighting like a man, or woman, or slime, I decided to cheese it, and I just gun him down like an American high school. As we begin heading towards Prehevil, I go through the central staircase, and there we find a confrontation between Tanaka, Marco, and Pav. And of course, gotta protect my homeboys, I decide to attack Pav. And I immediately kill him with Levi, who I taught Rot, which basically just rots your opponent from the inside, and I didn't really have to, because Pav just kind of gets killed really quickly. After absolutely bashing in Pav's brain, we talked to Marco and Tanaka about what caused the confrontation, and we found out that Pav was being a little cheeky little bugger, and he was following around Tanaka and Marco, and then Marco had punched Pav, who then pulled a gun on him. Now, the reason why Tanaka and Marco are out was because they're looking for a wheelchair, and they found one for Olivia. Following them back to the train, we were able to give the wheelchair to Olivia, and she was able to join our party. It's kind of up to have someone who's in a wheelchair be in a death game, but welcome to the party, Olivia.
Psych! That's the wrong number!
The idea we get with her is that she has photosynthesis as a skill, which just means that during daytime she's gonna be passively healing, which means that we're not gonna have to use many healing items on her outside battle, but inside battle we still have to heal her. And other than that, she's also in a wheelchair, which I don't think I have to state is kind of a problem when everything's out to kill you. Basically, it just means that if she gets hit, she gets knocked out of her chair and has to spend a turn getting back into the chair. But this still makes her better than Levi just because of how bad his heroin addiction is. So again, really good we have her. Alright, so immediately I have a good chance to test Olivia because we get attacked by needles. See, I remember that guy that made us get freaky earlier? Well, now we have our chance to mess him up. And generally, I expect this fight to be like near impossible just because of how bad I did against him before, but with 3 party members, this fight is actually a joke. And immediately coming off the heels of that victory, we get to... Aw, fuck. Okay, so this might be actually the worst matchup. Out of every fight in the game, this encounter is easily up there at Deathmask as being one of the hardest ones you can encounter just randomly. It is 3 enemies, and one of which will instantly kill you if they hit you. The other one can do most of your HP in a single hit, and the other one can also do most of your HP in a single hit. And you have to fight them all at once. So yeah, this fight has me kind of screwed. And of course with my luck, I'm doing it right off the heels of fighting Needle, so I'm already kind of weak. But through some kind of unknown odds, I actually managed to beat this fight. I think RNGesus actually blessed me during this fight because I have no idea how I actually beat them. Of course, a Mexican doing what a Mexican gotta do, I start robbing them after killing them. Wait, stop the video right there. You see that item just got? The bench grinder? Remember earlier in the video where I said that weapon crafting was going to be one of the biggest, most best skills in this entire game? This is the reason why. Because we pop down to our menu, we go down to weapon crafting, and we make the meat grinder. We are death now. So the meat grinder already on its own is already a better weapon than the pipe wrench because it's one more attack. But it also makes 3 attacks in a single turn. So it's already doing more damage in 1 hit than the pipe wrench. And it's doing 3 attacks. Which means that's almost never going to miss, because missing 3 regular attacks in a row just doesn't happen. And it inflicts bleeding, which if you don't know is busted in Termina because it does 10% of the enemy's HP every single turn, and you get to inflict that for free each time you attack them. This game is busted. Just look at this efficiency. I'm able to put these dogs down faster than PETA can. Now equipped with our divine weapon, we're able to head to West End Prehevil, and we're able to knock out a half cocoon that was over there and talk to Karen. And after talking to her for a bit, we're able to make her actually reciprocate joining into our team. So welcome to our 4th party member, Karen. Party member already starts with the pistol, which is a really good starting weapon, and she also has the skill lockpicking, which makes her really good because between my short circuit and her lockpicking, pretty much no door in this game can stop us from getting us through it, which means I can pretty much explore the entire map, worrying about having to exhaust resources. And of course, as you can see in the footage, we're going through the Prehevil News Agency, and we just pretty much just find nothing in here. Except for when we get out the back, we find this little secret garden area, which gives us this cool necklace, which I don't even end up using, but it's cool that it exists back here, and it's a little secret area. I head back to Eastside Prehevil because honestly, Westside Prehevil kind of sucks. There's nothing over there other than Karen, so... At the church, we see this giant furry stabbing this poor man to death. Now, clearly, this furry just needs to get more money to afford more fursuits. Obviously. But sadly, before we can fight and kill it, it jumps off. But we'll get him next time. Also, at this point, I abandoned Levi by leaving him back at the Prehevil Bop because he was just more of a hindrance, I'm gonna be honest. He just had a heroin addiction that just made him insanely weak, and I knew he had to be replaced anyways, so I just left him behind as I took Karen and Olivia with me towards the east side and towards the church. God. And inside the church, we see local loser girl, femcel, grimy loser, smelly, stinky idiot, Samari, who, after seeing the sunlight and grass, gets scared and retreats to the basement. Now look, obviously because I'm not some iPad-free milk bottle sucking newborn fetus on that skibidi Minecraft Fortnite grind with the amazing digital circus in the back, I obviously know that this is going to be a boss fight. So I started looking around for my next team member, and I end up going to the library. This place is just charming.
Can you keep it down?
Sorry, I wasn't aware to be someone else in here.
Why are you still talking?
I was just looking around as I headed to the church.
Holy shit. Was I not clear? Are you stupid? Leave.
Dejected about the prospect of losing the chance to get a fourth party member and not wanting to get my slime boobs torn off, I start heading back towards the church. Deciding I could just fight the boss with 3 party members, but as I begin heading over to the church, someone comes running from behind. Turns out Marina wants to join us since we're going to the church anyways. And hey, I have no reason to reject her, so welcome to the team, Marina. Like, if you couldn't tell by that absolutely cracked stat chart I put in the transitional sequence, Marina is an absolutely stacked party member. She already comes equipped with Pyromancy Trick, which you didn't know is like one of the best spells in the game because it's low cost, does burning damage, and I already talked about how bleeding is really good. Burning is basically the exact same as bleeding, so it's great. But that's like not even the best thing about her. She also comes with Engrave. So Engrave is insane because the way that it works is that you take one of the symbols of the 6 available gods in the game, and then you're able to basically permanently buff one of your party members with it. You only get to put 1 on each party member, but you're just going to choose the God of Fear and Hunger. I could explain what all the different stat bonuses are, but that doesn't matter. The God of Fear and Hunger is what I'm going to pick because it gives you plus 5 agility, which is insane. So basically, in Fear and Hunger, the way that agility works is that technically it does decide when you go during a turn, but it has a secondary, extremely overpowered effect. Agility decides how many times you get to attack during a turn. Yes, not just when you attack, but how many times you attack. Now, it is capped at 2, but obviously attacking twice in a turn or having 2 actions within a turn is a lot better than just having 1. So you get to attack twice once you hit 16 agility, and everyone in the game starts with a base 10 agility. So you can kind of see why getting your agility up is kind of important, and then you basically get a free way of getting your agility up. And it's one of the few ways you can actually achieve 16 agility, because the only other item that I know that gives you agility would be the Amulet of Small Things, which is already pretty expensive and hard to get, and also only gives you plus 5, so you're not even going to get double attack with it, but you do get it with those 2 together, and then you're also going to get some small agility buffs from the stat tree from the Hexen, which basically what this means that if you give all of your party members the God of Fear and Hunger sigil, which means pretty much you're always going to be going before the enemy, which is already important. But as you start getting those stat bonuses and you're able to start equipping them onto your party members, you get free double attacks across the entire party, which again isn't even just like free double DPS, which it effectively is. It's also the ability to just heal and attack in the same turn with the same character. So yeah, it's busted. Now with all that nerdy bullcrap out of the way, I get bullied inside a confessional. Just like in real life. The person who bullied us was Osa, and he claims it's just a small little joke. Oh, but I'll show him a good little joke later. I will. Still sobbing wet tears after getting horrifically bullied by Osa. In the basement of the church, we find that it's absolutely freaky. And in the freaky basement of the freaky church, with the freaky priest walking around with freaky little mollusk heads, with freaky chained up prisoners, with freaky oiled up floors, we make our way down to the freaky rare dimension. We see that the leader of the freaky area is actually Samari, the loser, freaky, sneaky, little, stinky little loser femcel girl from earlier who's on her skibbity Fortnite Riz grind with the Kai Sinat. Wait, shoot. I need to. These are real words. From the Kai Sinat Phantom Tax, Skibbity Riz, Ohio, Libby Dunn, Baby Gronk, with Big Justice Boomer Doom. Is this what gets the views? Really? Anyways, the stinky stupid loser femcel is now challenging us to a fight, and we conversed with her beforehand.
Look, I sacrificed them for you. You can see it, right? I'm Liberty from that crab stain that never cared about you. We can finally be together and escape this wretched place.
Is this bitch serious? Why would killing my father make me like you? I don't even know who you are.
What do you mean? I've been there for you during your ups and downs.
You are. Clearly, you're delusional, because I'd remember meeting such a needy femcel bitch like you.
Why are you saying this to me?
Because you killed my dad, you dumb bitch.
Stop it. Shut up. Shut up.
Dysmorphia going into it is definitely one of the scarier fights within the game, because Dysmorphia is able to use a spell called Hurting. Now, Hurting is really scary because even though when used by players it's like one of the weakest spells in the entire game, incredibly expensive, does very little damage, it is incredibly cracked when it comes to enemies because they're filled with absolute hate and vitriol towards us. So they're able to do half your HP and take one of your limbs. Every single time, guaranteed. And Hurting doesn't usually miss. So you're basically begging on your hands and knees that they don't take one of your arms, because losing your arms this game is really bad, especially Abella, because she needs both arms to use Meat Grinder, you know? That insanely cracked weapon we grinded so hard to get. Yeah, we just lose that right here. And I'm praying my hands and knees that doesn't happen and ruin our entire run. But luckily enough, she gets Olivia's legs. Of all the people she could have taken limbs from, shoot, I would be fine if she took someone else's legs, but Olivia's legs? Bro, she's in a wheelchair. She cannot move with her legs. And obviously in retaliation, we beat the ever-living crap out of Dysmorphia, take her soul, and we're able to unlock two extremely useful spells from her. We're able to get the spell Blood Sacrifice, which increases our affinity with Grogroth basically for free. And then we get the spell... Wait, let me check my notes. Is this right? Yep, no, you get a mat... You see it on screen, I don't have to say it. Yeah, that's a spell you get in this game. And it's one of the best. It doubles your affinity gain with Sylvian for free. And Sylvian has some of the best healing spells in the entire game, so you're going to want to use it. So all those jokes I was making about Samari being a stinky, smelly, femcel, basement-dwelling gooner goonette, I was correct. One of her most notable skills in life was flicking it. So, I'm completely correct in bullying her in the way I did. So exploring the rest of the basement, we find this thing called the fellatio effigy, and something that I probably should have talked about earlier that I kind of skipped over because I was crying over how Osal was horrifically bullying my delicious slime form. So basically, these effigies are basically the MacGuffins that we have to find to be able to continue moving to the final area of the game. There's 3 of them in total, and we found all this out in a worksman note, so we found inside of a toolbox. We find out that there's one effigy in the bottom of this basement. There's going to be one inside the apartment and one inside of an orphanage that we haven't seen yet. The second effigy I decided to go after is going to be in the White Mold Apartments, and living up to its name, it's covered in a thick white substance covering everything, just like if you left me alone in a room with a bottle of soap. I'm talking about soap suds, you dirty-minded little freaks. Look at you, I call you guys gooners and goonettes, but now I live up to your name. That's it. 10 minutes in the timeout corner for you. You promise to be good? Okay, but no more being horny little rats. Anyways, you might have noticed that in my party I no longer have Olivia. That's because while it's the first time for you guys being in here, for me, I've been in here a couple times. Before it was just me and Levi, and I died like 3 times to the neighbors. But in dying here, I already knew that Dan was going to be in here, and I wanted to recruit Dan. So I decided to just leave Olivia behind so that way I can recruit him right now. We find Dan inside of a room with a strange symbol on the floor, which you will later find out to be the symbol of the sulfur god. And I'll touch on the sulfur god more later, but because he's just so integral to the story of Termina, but is also barely brought up for some reason. Anyways, welcome to the party, Dan. This party member is kind of insane, and honestly, I tie him with Marina with how amazing he is. So immediately he comes with 2 skills, Magna Medicinal and Analyze. Magna Medicinal, what it does is that it allows him, in exchange for one of his limbs, to instantly revive one of your party members in battle. It is the only way in the game to revive someone after they hit 0 HP. Now no, after the battle, it does not work anymore. You have to do it in the same battle that the person died. But still, being able to have a crutch against saving one of your party members is insane. His second ability, Analyze, is just as good. So it doesn't work on most of the bosses in the game, but most of the common enemies, using it allows you to hit their heads without having to break their legs first, which is great because heads in this game are usually one-shots for most weapons. So you're able to pretty much turn most fights into comically easy messes. Now I used neither of these abilities in this run, but hey, if I'd known they were good, I would have used them. This is what not using the wiki does to you. I would have saved so much time, and I probably would have kept Dan in my party. Because as you see later, I don't keep him because I didn't realize how good he was, and I kind of like my party full of girls, so I kind of shot myself in the foot. Exploring through the white mold apartments, we find on the first level that there's a news broadcast going on, and that's being currently broadcasted by Karen Sawyer, which can't be possible because she's in our party, and she freaks out as such because she did not remember ever recording that. But using the broadcast, we're able to figure out who in the apartment had been murdered, which allows us to figure out a passcode down in the basement that allows us to access a washing machine, and going through the washing machine's bloody hole takes us to another dimension. That's a sentence I just said, and it's actually sensical. It's weird. Going through the alternate dimension, we fight our way through every single neighbor, and eventually we end up finding the statue. And on a statue, we're able to get the Flacio effigy, which now brings our MacGuffin count up to 2. Fighting our way through the orphanage very quickly, because this is totally not footage I have to reshoot because I kind of forgot to film this entire section. Ignore how I'm going through the entire area without checking any of the rooms or looting much. It's entirely because I totally just am goated like that, and this is not me just having recorded this 5 seconds ago because I forgot the first time. Forgive me. And we fight Stinky Old Man. And yeah, Stinky Old Man wasn't crap. I know this time, because I already knew what I was going into, that it wasn't that bad, but the first time I went through this place, I also fought him the exact same way, and Stinky Old Man he goes down, like, in 5 seconds. I just do way too much damage. The bleed and the burn just kill him, and he gives you a free first turn, so either way, first time and this time, I just beat him in 1 round. It was honestly upsetting. After absolutely slaughtering Stinky Old Man, we go into the courtyard and we find a noose for some reason in this orphanage. But more importantly, inside this shed, we find a portal to another dimension, which takes us to World War II. Yay! And of course, we quickly grab the effigy and dip, heading back to the church. One by one, we place down the effigies. The martyr effigy, the fellatio effigy, the hunger effigy. Placing each of them down, a passage underground opened up. We slay and slaughter our way through the underground basement, and then, through the cracks of daylight, we find ourselves in Mausoleum Alley. We are now officially in the last part of the game. At this point, the entire map is open to us, and we are able to freely go where we want. Now, when I was playing the game, I didn't realize that was the kind of point that we hit in the game. I knew we did something major, obviously, because we collected the 3 big MacGuffins we were supposed to be collecting this entire time. But now looking back on it, I think part of me didn't really realize just how close I was to the end. Like, genuinely, after this point, you do like 2 more things, and then you're right there at the end. Mausoleum Alley leads to the altar of the one true God, and a massive form descends from the top, from the rafters. Descending upon us is Rodden. Yeah, that fairy from earlier that was killed that innocent Bobby for his pocket money. Yeah, he's back. His boss fight is comedically easy as well, but to be fair, it's not his fault. Compared to Father Hugo, he's actually a beast of a fight, because he can easily do most of your HP in a single hit. So if he actually was a proper fight, he would be insane. And also what doesn't help is that the only thing you need to do to win the fight is just take one of his arms. I didn't know that. I thought I'd actually destroy his torso, but I tried destroying his arms right away because he was insane. He's doing most of my HP in a single hit, but obviously I got away, so. After skewering off that furry's arm and he jumps off, we come across our next big obstacle, Osa. Osa didn't predict being this awful towards me, but he is. As you see, he's sitting in the middle of this road. How do we get past him? We don't. You see, he will fight you if you get closer, and the only way to make him move forward is by changing the day. And I'm not doing that crap. So you know what I do? I walk up to him and I slaughter him in 1 move. Screw you, Osa. This is what you get for finding out I'm a Gooner Goonette earlier. Or some kind of slime Gooner in between. Anyways, we move on after that. Now inside of Temple District proper, the first place that we hit up is the museum. And inside it's amazing because it has some of the best loot in the entire game, including the fluted armor pieces and the fluted breastplate. Now, earlier in the game, there's a little secret area you could go down into, which allowed you to get the fluted fold from the mayor's manor. And by combining all these armor pieces, we get one of the best armors in the entire game. It is actually so cracked. It provides nearly 40% damage decrease from every single source of physical damage, with the only downside that it negates your agility. But with the amulet of small things, the Fear and Hunger sigil, and the +1 agility from the God of Fear and Hunger skill tree, that doesn't matter. We get to be a tank with almost no downsides. Inside the museum, we also get the Yagagetsu amulet, and we also get the Cha-Cha. The Yagagetsu amulet is amazing because it increases your critical hit chance by 15. And you remember how with the meat grinder, I get 3 hits? Now your base critical hit chance is 3%, which means that every single time I hit, I have an 18% chance of getting a critical hit. Which means that whenever I use my meat grinder, I'm almost guaranteed within my 6 hits available to get at least 1 critical, which with the meat grinder is around 1000 damage. So yes, the meat grinder only gets more overpowered. And the Cha-Cha is even better. Now, the Shock Shock at face value doesn't actually seem that good. It only gives +20 magic attack, which if you don't know would probably increase your damage by around like 100 each time you use a spell, which is fine. But there's a unique bug in the game that I didn't know existed. So one of the skills you get from killing Osa is called La Danse Macabre, and it is pretty cracked. When combined with the Shock Shock, you do 400% more magic damage. I want to make this clear. You are now doing 4 times the damage you do with a spell than before. Spells already had pretty good output, especially with a character like Marina. And now, I can do 2000 damage to all enemies with Roots That Reap, or Combustion. Part of why 1, Marina is so cracked, 2, why magic in just general is cracked, and 3, why the rest of this game is going to be a breeze. So the museum is actually home to a puzzle, and once you solve this puzzle, you're able to go behind this clock. Behind this clock is an excavation site, which if you go down the hole that's inside of it, you're able to reach this place called White Bunker. And White Bunker will be extremely useful later, but not for right now, because we don't have access to it. And before we ever go down there, there's another place you have to go to. It's this house that contains the Hexen. Remember how we used to have to go to sleep to access the Hexen? Well, inside this house, we're now able to actually just use it whenever we want to, which means now we can fully max out our party. The way that we access White Bunker is by going around the map and we're activating these teleelectroscope points. These teleelectroscope points are located inside of bunkers that are all over the map. And after activating each of them one by one, we're able to access White Bunker. But we're not doing that yet. You see, inside of White Bunker is the end of the game. And we do have access to it right now, but there's something else I want to do beforehand. See, the difference between earlier in the video, I mentioned that I would not be using the chandeliers run, as opposed to the foundations of decay. I kind of lied about not knowing anything about the game. You see, there's something else within Termina, something more terrifying. Earlier when we were at the church, I didn't show myself cutting down the chandelier, which is the usual way to access the basement of the church. That's because I didn't. You see, I kind of skipped over the sewers for the most part because while you're down there, you do the sewage puzzle. And by completing that puzzle, you're able to access a secret area. This area is called the Foundations of Decay. Within this area, there's a way that you can access the church basement without having to cut down the chandelier. But waiting in these wretched hallways is an old friend ready to greet you once more. And let's just say, she's hungry. So this is an earlier point in the game when I had just gotten Marina, but even then the fight against Moonless isn't that hard because despite how intimidating he looks, he gives you 4 turns of prep time, which allows you to get full rev with every single character, which means that every character is going to be going 3 times, assuming you've gotten them all up to full agility, and you'll be able to stack all your buffs onto all your characters. And then Moonless's limbs actually don't have that much HP at all, so you're able to take them all out really quickly. And his main damage dealer comes from the miasma that's stuck into his back, which will poison your entire party. but it can also be taken out with about one hit of the meat grinder. So genuinely, it's just not that hard of a fight, which is how much to give you way too much prep time. And at the end, August saves, with air quotes, us, but in reality, he probably didn't just want us putting down his mutt. But out of this fight, we do get Black Steel, which is an extremely good sword because it increases your crit rate by 15. Out of this fight, we do get Black Steel, and it is an extremely good sword because it gives you 18% crit rate increase. It's not as good as Meat Grinder, but it's a good secondary sword, and it only takes one hand slot, which means that the rest of my party can actually equip it, compared to most weapons which take 2 hands to use. Defeating the Big Bad Pupper grants us access to the basement of the Church of Alll-Mer, without having to lower the chandelier. And inside of a cell, we get the key, which, after going to a rare dimension that's also within the basement, we're able to find the Heartless God chained up. And after we free her, we're given the heart-shaped lock. Which then takes us back to present day, because now it's time to face her. And trust me, she wants a good show.
Trying to overcome my influence. If you're going to be this belligerent, you better put up a good show.
What makes the Heartless One of the most brutal fights in the entire game is that she's already one of the strongest enemies by herself in the game, having the damage output that exceeds even Rancid's ability to sometimes one-shot party members. But what makes her even more brutal is that going into the fight, you're forced to fight her solo. You're not allowed to take any allies into the fight. You're also unable to avoid her attacks, as any debuffs that would inflict something like blindness or concussion against her, like Wrench Toss, that would cause her to lose a turn, don't work against her. Now, for this fight, my setup was pretty simple. I also was wearing the fluid armor and I had the meat grinder. And then I would always be summoning a meat golem turn 1 using Spice Forge because that 200 HP pool was pretty much the only thing allowing you to get set up with a brown vial. But even with this absolutely optimized setup, I was absolutely struggling. Because the way that damages works in Fear and Hunger is that damage can either be on a low roll or a high roll. And if I got consistently high rolls against me throughout in a fight, then I would be doomed to just get one shot no matter what, even from full HP. So honestly, this entire fight, even with the best possible setup that I was able to get, pretty much forces you to rely on RNG to be able to get through it. But honestly, this is probably one of my favorite fights in the entire game, just because it's actually a struggle. A problem with Termina is that if you're using some kind of hyper optimized strategy like I am, it's a breeze at this point. Like once you get actually set up, there's almost no fight in the game that isn't hard. Like I'm pretty sure I killed every single enemy on the map. But this fight was actually fun because yeah, it took 2 hours, but it was 2 hours of strategy, constantly changing things up, trying new things, trying new item combos. It was the first time I ever actually had to experiment to be able to see if something else could work. And also, I think a funny fact I want to say is that at some point during this fight, I just started going so insane that I started unironically listening to Senzawa's "Oh Whoa, You're So Warm" as punishment for not winning. And trust me, if you've listened to that song, it is something. You know what? Screw it. Here's some excerpts from the song so we can understand just how delusional and delirious I was at this point. Ooh woo, you're so warm. Couldn't help but notice your bulge from across the floor. Nuzzles your necky wecky, mer hee hee. Unzips your baggy pants. Oh baby, you so musky. Take me home, pet me, and make me yours, and don't forget to stuff me. I hate this song. So this is the setup I was using. You just kind of like inspect that to see if you think that's good or not. And after what felt like hours of trying and dying and nothing working, I eventually got this run. God. Oh my god. Oh my god. God. Oh my god. Oh my god, I finally did it. I finally did it. Oh my god, I've been here for 2 hours straight on this stupid fight, hoping to get the RNG. Oh my god. With the Heartless One finally slain, we now have the most powerful armor and one-handed weapon in the entire game. Which is extremely useful because, again, Abella is the only person in my party who can equip a two-handed weapon. So being able to have an extremely powerful one-handed weapon other than Black Steel is extremely helpful. And the Darkness, which is the armor that drops from the Heartless One, is insane. It's as good as the fluted armor, but without the agility drawbacks and the defense against otherworldly, which against the final boss fight is going to be insanely helpful. We are now able to enter White Bunker. And as soon as we enter, we hear a terrifying noise. White Bunker has become our coffin. My entire party is now doomed to die. When you first hear that noise and see the text When you first hear that noise and see the text at the bottom of the screen say this place has become your tomb, part of you wishes that that isn't true, that there's some secret way out of this bunker, but I regret to tell you that Fear and Hunger is not a kind game. By having entered this bunker, Abella, Marina, Karen, Olivia, they're all trapped down here, and they're never getting out. The bunker is a labyrinth, with terrifying enemies littering each corner, each enemy being catastrophically stronger than anything that was on the surface. But quickly we dispatch them, and make your way down towards the gauntlet, where we encounter our first boss. The gauntlet is easily the best part of the entire game, except for one part. We are going to talk about that part when it comes up, because it is a bunch of mostly enjoyable fights back to back. And it's the part of the game that genuinely challenges what you learned up to this point. And a great example of this is Sylvian Trooper and Platoon. It is a duo fight where it is one of the first times where you're gonna not be able to just steamroll your way through it. And what's great is how the two enemies work off of each other to make the fight harder if you don't know what you're doing. This fight is split into two enemies, Sylvian Trooper and Platoon. Platoon has a massive health pool, 10,000, so you're not going to be able to kill him fast at all, especially since he's immune to most conditions in the game that would either inhibit him from attacking or any status effects like bleeding and burning. So no matter what, you're going to have to take your time with him. But Sylvian Trooper is much more squishy, only having 1250 HP. And the thing is, as long as Sylvian Trooper is alive, she's going to be able to make Platoon act much more often and much more consistently, while also dealing her own extremely powerful attacks and causing bleeding. So, if you know what you're doing, you're going to quickly kill Sylvian Trooper and then work your way on Platoon. There's also one of those fights where the damage you're taking is rough, but fair. You're never just gonna be bullcrapped and take a crap ton of damage. You can easily work your way through this fight as long as you're being smart about it. And there are strategies you can do where even if you do fail the coin flip attacks, you're able to survive still. So it's a completely fair fight, and I love how the two enemies work off of each other. It makes it a genuinely fun fight and a puzzle. And of course, we kill them. There's also the fight that shows off the extreme goat that Marina is after we had gotten her buffed up with all of her stat upgrades, so good on you, Marina. But then, after killing them, we move on to the next part of the gauntlet. And hey look, it's our good old friend, the Kaiser. If you couldn't tell by that absolutely crappy introduction, this is the part of the gauntlet that I hate. The Kaiser is hyped up throughout the entire game to be this massive encounter, but his fight is so underwhelming. I literally killed him in 2 turns. Now, I know part of that is on purpose, since part of the lore is that he's pretty much getting cut out of being God in this ending, where logic is overtaken by what you're gonna say. But that doesn't mean his fight had to be so crappy. Sylvian Trooper and Platoon, who had no setup, were a much more exciting and engaging fight. But Kaiser gets humiliated within seconds. Now, part of this is because, unlike Platoon, the Heartless One, or Logic, he is not immune to concussion. Well, no, he is, but just not on his arms, where that would actually matter because that's what he attacks from. So he can be infinitely stun locked in this fight, which again means he's an absolute sweep. You get why I hated this fight and why I gave it that absolutely crappy introduction. Look, I'm playing Fear and Hunger because I actually genuinely want a challenge, and the fact that this boss can be beaten without taking any damage and be killed in 2 turns makes me so sad. His torso only has 4,500 HP, which at this point in the game is absolutely pathetic. Also, unlike Platoon, he has no resistance at all to any kind of status effects like burning, bleeding, and poison. And I have no idea why, but the damage he takes over time is massively over his HP. So really, he should only be taking the normal amount from his 4,500 HP pool. But when it comes for damage over time, 18,000. He is stomped by status effects, and it's not even funny. So yeah, I hate this fight, but luckily the next one is actually better. But calling this a fight feels inaccurate. We are within the womb of logic. What stands before us is not a god, it is the birthing of a god. We are merely fighting an infant and losing. Every attack doesn't feel voluntary, just a reactionary measure against us trying to destroy its casing. And each of these blows dealing devastating amounts of damage. But these aren't attacks. This is just its exhaust. The leftover energy that's being exuded by its mere presence. It doesn't even have to think about destroying us to destroy us. Just it existing is toxic towards our health. And we desperately fight, claw and tooth to put this thing down. But all of our tactics don't work. We can't concuss it. We can't make it bleed. We can't poison it. The fight is long and drawn out. And by the end of it, we lose. We are absorbed by logic. Every fight, every monster we slayed, every secret we uncovered all led up to this moment, to uncovering the truth behind the birthing of a god, so that we can get absorbed within logic. And we die. This was the goal of Termina. Getting absorbed and helping with the awakening of logic, we give birth to a new hope for humanity. In our deaths, we birth a new god, a god of logic, a god that unites humanity, one that can stand against the power of the old gods, a power by humanity, for humanity. No gods, no masters. This is what Termina was about. And then the credits roll. Termina to me is something really special. There's a lot of survival horror games out there, but Termina and just Fear and Hunger in general, I haven't played the first one, but Fear and Hunger manages to capture the true essence of survival horror. You are a human put in such a desperate scenario where everything you try is futile. Every action that you do has a chance to lead to your own instant death. A game that actually shows just how truly inconsequential you are, at a glance at least. But it's through struggling, persistence, pushing through each and every obstacle do you reach the end. And by the end, you realize that despite how fragile you were, it was in the lessons that you learned and in that persistence that you kept giving that you're able to actually achieve something. Well, the humans within the world of Fear and Hunger are nothing before the might of the gods. We can be we can be vital to something that does rival the gods. We may have died, but in our deaths, we awaken the machine god logic, a new force for humanity, one that will push us through the times of war, the times of darkness that this game was supposed to show off. I didn't super get into it, but the backdrop of this game is World War II. And within many of the papers you can find within the game, the world is going to crap. Humanity is killing itself through war. And it's at this time of desperation. It's in this time of desperation where the machine god is birthed out of humanity. Logic represents humanity's ability to overcome through our minds. That we are able to, in a way, match those superior above us through the gathering of our own knowledge and through the persistence of pursuing that knowledge. Now, this is just kind of my take on what I think about Fear and Hunger. I have not played the first game yet, so I could be getting some things horrifically wrong, and I wouldn't know. But that's my genuine takeaway about Fear and Hunger. And throughout this video, I talk a lot about the game, obviously, but I genuinely recommend you guys all to go and play the game for yourselves. I could only show so much in this video without going insane, and there's so much that I definitely missed. There's multiple endings, and in this video I'll only be showing one because it's already an hour long, and if I tried to get the other two endings, I would be wanting to kill. I'd be wanting to shoot myself in the foot. And this is the part of the video where I say, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed my analysis, you enjoyed my commentary about this game. It would mean so much to me. I have a Discord. I'll probably plug in the description, but I I can't sing enough praise for this game. It's what inspired me to make this insanely long project. Anyways, that about wraps it up for me. I hope all you gooners and goonettes have a good day. Some BN Dev out.